Welcome back to Paul's Lanterns and Things, where today we're looking at a small pile of parts for our 1965 Evinrude 40 horsepower outboard motor. So a little while ago, I realized that I had spun the prop to my motor because as I was kind of going along, occasionally the revs would spike and the boat would slow down. And what that means is that this bushing that's inside the propeller starts spinning independently from the actual propeller itself. So, you know, the drive shaft for the prop spins really fast, but the prop effectively stops in the water. So I got a replacement prop. Great, excellent graphics design there. And I pulled the boat out of the water and realized that the gear case was leaking pretty badly, and so that meant that I would need to figure out a way to reseal it. It was mainly coming out kind of at the parting line of the gear case. So I went ahead and bought this seal kit, this 18-2686 seal kit. I believe it was probably from marineengine.com because that's where the parts diagram's from. But the parts, identified here by part number aren't, there's no labels on the actual O-rings, seals, whatever, and the part diagram doesn't have the part numbers on it, so it's taking me a minute to figure out what goes to what. Also, I didn't know that this red stuff here was called spaghetti seal, so I was trying to Google all sorts of terms like linear O-ring gasket or something like that. So anyway, spaghetti seal is apparently the colloquial term for this, and on the parts diagram it's identified as the gear case seal. So that's the gear case seal, great. What about all of these other parts? So these white kind of plastic washers, they go at the drain and fill plugs at these parts identified as 50 on the part diagram. That's I believe that's the drain plug, that's the fill plug, it's the same 50. The actual washers don't appear to be identified on the diagram, I don't believe, but they do come as part of the kit, and they look identical to the ones that are on the motor. So then this smaller O-ring right here, I was quite confused about this one for a while, because the best I could figure is that it was this number 41 O-ring for this little pivot screw that serves as a hinge for this shifter mechanism. From, you might have seen that in one of my previous videos. Anyway, but the reason why I was confused is because on my motor, someone installed this kind of felt-looking type washer, which is actually this piece over here. So I thought when I first got it, I was like, oh, okay, so that is the piece that goes there. No, actually, it doesn't. So, so this little O-ring is actually what's supposed to go under this pivot screw at the gear case, which is 41 is the O-ring and 40 is that screw over there. And this kind of more like felt-like washer, that's actually, as far as I figured, it's the shift rod bushing gasket. There's also that's number 47 on this diagram. There's number 42, which is that stout O-ring. That's the shift rod O-ring. So when I actually looked up the photos of these parts, they match up really well with these items right here. So that means that I'll need to I'll need to split this. This is a long shaft lower unit, so I'll need to remove this kind of additional spacer and get way in there to place the seal and the O-ring around the shift rod. So that's these three parts, right? So this is this little O-ring around number 41 around that pivot. These are part number 42 and 47, the shift rod O-ring and the shift rod bushing gasket. Then this large O-ring is number 44 in the parts diagram here, and it's just identified as O-ring, but what it does, it goes around the oil retainer housing, which is actually this part right here. So it's the aluminum piece that fits in between the propeller shaft and the gear case. And this O-ring goes around that piece. So it comes out, so the gear case splits apart, and the whole shaft assembly comes out, and then you can remove the old O-ring from around that propeller shaft. No, I'm sorry, from around that oil retainer housing. Okay, so that's most of the parts. And then there's these two things, kind of these composite metal and rubber, and there's a spring inside of them. They're oil seals, or shaft seals, oil seals. There's two of them, one on the crankshaft, which comes from the power head, and one for the prop shaft, obviously, that the propeller sits on. What's interesting is the propeller shaft seal is larger, so this is the larger diameter one. It will fit snugly on the propeller shaft, and it's this part number 46 on the part diagram, propeller shaft oil retainer. And then the smaller one goes, I believe that's number 48, this oil seal that goes right above the bearing assembly for the drive shaft. And that's, again, all the way, this is the drive shaft, and it's all the way in there. So I'll need to part this casting and then get in there. But I did take a look up along the drive shaft, and there is an oil seal looking type thing down there. So those are all of the parts. Number 48 oil seal for the drive shaft or the crankshaft. Number 46 propeller shaft oil retainer, this big one. Then the O-ring for the oil retainer housing, number 44. These two for the shift rod, looks like number 42, the shift rod O-ring, and number 47, the shift rod bushing gasket. And then this tiny little O-ring, number 41 on the parts diagram, for that pivot screw. Two plastic washers that don't come up on the parts diagram at all, but they're for the drain plug and fill plug. And the spaghetti seal, that's number 10, that's identified as the gear case seal. So, there you go. Here are all of the parts. And I also got a water pump to just do regular maintenance on, and some gasket maker, because people suggest putting gasket maker around the outside of the spaghetti seal. So there we go. Hopefully I'll get this back together in no time and get the boat ready for spring.